Welcome to the program. I'm Tracy Bowden. As speculation mounts that Julia Gillard could call an election as early as this weekend, with senior party figures urging her to move swiftly, the Prime Minister today stepped up pre-election announcements and negotiations to tie up loose ends. The government will expand the education tax refund scheme to include school uniforms and is working on a compromise with the West Australian Premier to have that state included in Kevin Rudd's health reform deal. The Federal Cabinet today focused on climate policy, and an outline of government objectives is expected before the week is out. Political editor Heather Hewitt reports.
I'm well aware that Australians are looking at me and assessing me.
We cannot win the election unless we win Eden Monaro.
Looking at Mr Abbott and assessing Mr Abbott, and they'll make their choice.
And I can think of no better person to win Eden Monaro than David Gillard.
It gives me great pleasure to be turning the first sod.
Setting an election date is a mere formality. The campaign is well and truly on.
Can working families trust Tony Abbott with Australia's health service?
More than 2 million people saw this ALP ad on the popular primetime TV show MasterChef last night, and there are more ready to roll out at almost the same pace as Julia Gillard's pre-election announcements.
I announce that a re-elected Gillard government will extend the coverage of the education tax refund to school uniforms.
No area, it seems, will be spared in this government's desire to capitalise on its new leadership and electoral prospects. It's school uniforms one day, something else the next, with the sort of rhetoric you might expect at a bargain basement sale.
This policy will apply to expenses in the tax year in 2011-12. So my message to families would be, keep your receipts now.
But if she'd been fair income about giving more help to parents, why didn't she, as the Education Minister, do this at the start of the year rather than now?
I believe having a school uniform gives people a sense of self, a sense of discipline, a sense of how to present yourself to the world.
Is she on the right track politically?
Yes, she is. It's good politics and it's good education policy. Studies from overseas show that uniforms increase academic standards often, they reduce discipline problems, and it's a good move.
The cost of school uniforms would not appear to be at the top of the list of voters' electoral concerns, though internal party polling may say otherwise. After the confusion and controversy surrounding the Prime Minister's announcement on East Timor last week, the government needed some sort of tactical shift in direction this week. Even then, the problem of East Timor is never far away, with the Parliament there last night voting against an asylum seeker processing centre.
This was a vote on a resolution in the East Timorese Parliament at a time that the Parliament was not well attended. We, of course, are dealing with the East Timorese government. We have officials in East Timor.
Why not Nauru? We did it before, we can do it again. My understanding is that all they are waiting for is a phone call from Prime Minister Gillard.
The President of Nauru declared today he was open to the idea and could look at signing up to the UN Refugees Convention. For now, Julia Gillard is moving on with the rest of her to-do list before an election is called.
She has to take advantage of her honeymoon. She has momentum. Certainly there have been big bumps in the road, and the East Timor debacle, and that's the only thing you can call it, highlights the fact that the more policies you have, the more mistakes you can afford to make. And she's certainly rushing to an election, but she has to be seen to have a handle on these political issues and to fix the problems that Kevin Rudd left her.
One of those is how to bring Western Australia into the fold on Kevin Rudd's health reform deal. The Prime Minister has confirmed she's started discussions with the state's Premier on striking a compromise.
Whether we can get to a solution very much depends on the content of future conversations. What I am indicating is an attitude in those conversations, and the attitude is one of goodwill and respect.
There's room for discussion, there's room for negotiation. I don't think you can ever say never in these sorts of negotiations.
If those Labor states who reluctantly fell in with the deal in the first place are feeling somewhat disgruntled about Western Australia getting special treatment, they're not saying so publicly.
Can I just ask you about the WA, the health deal? We've got the governor next door.
Seriously, they started to win it.
The one big thorny issue the government is yet to make announcements on is climate policy, and this dominated a cabinet meeting today.
The government is working its way through these issues, and we will do so methodically, taking the time necessary to get it right.
We're aware from our representations to many cabinet ministers that there's differing views around the cabinet table. The message we've been carrying in is the majority of Australians want leadership and they want strong action.
Julia Gillard has made it clear she won't be putting a price on carbon anytime soon. But the government is expected later this week to give an outline of plans to boost use of renewable energies and encourage energy efficiency. In the meantime, Julia Gillard is offering this reassurance.
Look, I feel like the Prime Minister. I am the Prime Minister. I've got the benefits and the burdens of this office.
I want to focus on Labor's policy failures rather than their individuals and personalities. But the truth is we have gone from incompetence to incompetence.
That's, of course, for voters to decide. As Julia Gillard mulls over election timing, she's under mounting pressure from senior party figures to call it as early as this weekend.